Hello everyone! I hope you're ready for another adventure, because today, Wayne continues to read The Mouse and the Motorcycle. Always remember that as we go through these amazing stories and read these outstanding adventures, all you have to do is press the CC button in your YouTube link to be able to follow along with the words. I believe that Madam Owl will be perfect to join us for today's adventure. Now that Madam Owl is here, let's jump in. The Mouse and the Motorcycle, Chapter 8. A family reunion? The next thing Ralph knew, his mother was shaking him by the shoulder. "Wake up," she said. "Ralph, wake up. Room service has brought us another meal." Room service? Ralph rubbed his eyes, not believing what he had heard. Room service was brought our dinner? Yes, real feast. A whole blueberry muffin and chocolate chip cookie, said Ralph's mother. "Get up. We are having a family reunion." It all came back to Ralph. "Oh, room service," he said, understanding at last. "You mean the boy Keith." "He is room service to me," Ralph's mother sounded happy and carefree. Ralph sat up. Already his aunts and uncles and many squeaky cousins were arriving by secret paths in the space between the walls. It was a long time since everyone had enough food for a family reunion, and there was rejoicing in the mouse nest for everyone but Ralph. He was thinking of the motorcycle. He had lost him, and the promise had been broken. He had a dull, heavy feeling in the pit of his stomach, and he did not feel like celebrating. "Why, there's Ralph," squeaked Aunt Sissy, who thought she was better than the rest of the family because she lived in the bridal suite where she led her relatives to believe riches of rice fell to the carpet when the bride took off her hat and the groom shook off his coat. Fair. The rest of the family knew Aunt Sissy was not as grand as she pretended to be, because very few brides and grooms came to the hotel these days. My, have you grown. Ralph never knew what to say when people told him how he had grown. Well, if it isn't Ralph," said Uncle Lester, who had a nest inside the wall of the housekeeper's house, where the maids dropped donut crumbs every morning at 10 o'clock when they had their coffee. "What's this I hear about you riding up and down the halls on a motorcycle?" Uncle Lester had a way of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. "My land, a motorcycle," said Aunt Dorothy. "Isn't that pretty dangerous?" "Wouldn't mind riding one myself if I was a few years younger," said Uncle Lester. All the little cousins were crowding around Ralph. "Show us your motorcycle," they squeaked. "We want to ride it." "Come on, give us a ride on your motorcycle, Ralph, huh? Come on, Ralph, please." Ralph knew he was expected to be polite to all his relatives, even the squeaky cousins. Well, embarrassed and ashamed, he looked down at the floor. "I sort of lost the motorcycle in a pile of sheets and pillowcases." "Lost the motorcycle? Oh, Ralph," cried his mother, generally alarmed. Ralph knew what she was thinking. Did this mean the end of room service? Did she have to go back to pilfering crumbs for his brothers and sisters? "That's a young mouse for you," said tactless Uncle Lester. "Can't take care of anything." "If anyone asks me, I think it's a good thing he lost it," said Aunt Dorothy. "Riding a motorcycle is just plain foolhardy." All the little cousins looked disappointed and sulky. "I don't think he ever had a motorcycle," said one. "I bet he just made it up," said another. The rest agreed. Ralph felt terrible. The family reunion swirled around him. The muffin and the cookie were divided. Cousins fought over the blueberries. Uncles, usually overweight, asked for second helpings. Everyone talked at once. The little cousins finished their dinner and went racing around the mouse nest. The aunts and uncles raised their voices to be heard above the racket the children made. Suddenly there came from the knothole a noise that drowned out the squeaks and squeals of young mice at play. "Shh! Not a mouse moved." They looked at one another, too terrified. "Psst! Hey, Ralph, come on out," whispered Keith at the entrance of the mouse hole. Ralph's mother gave him a little shove, but no one spoke. With heavy feet, Ralph walked to the knothole. "What did you want?" he asked. "You and your family better be quiet in there, or my mother will hear you. You know how she is with mice," Keith said. "I don't know why people say things aren't as quiet as mice. You sound like a pretty noisy bunch to me." Behind Ralph, his relatives began to tiptoe quietly away to their homes, leaving his mother to do all the cleaning. "Did you have a nice picnic?" Ralph asked, dreading what he must tell the boy. "Yes, we saw an old mining town with a real jail and bars in the windows." Keith reached into his pocket and pulled out something curved and hard and white, with a rubber band fastened to it and a piece of scotch tape. "I brought you a present," he said. "Come on out." Puzzled and curious, Ralph squeezed through the knothole. What is it? He asked. Whatever the object was, he had never seen anything like it. Half a ping pong ball I found in the game room, said Keith. See? I patted the inside with thistledown and anchored the rubber band to the tape with scotch tape. What for? Ralph did not understand. A crash helmet for you. Keith set the half ping pong ball on Ralph's head and slipped the rubber band carefully around his whiskers until it rested under his chin. There, that's just right. You need it to be big there. Will be plenty of room for your ears. When you ride a motorcycle, you need a crash helmet. Ralph peered at Keith from under his new crash helmet, which rested lightly on his head. He knew he looked every inch of a motorcycle racer, but never in his whole life had he felt more ashamed. He longed to crawl off into his mouse hole and never see Keith's face again, but his conscience, which until now he did not know he had, would not let him. There was nothing to do but stand there in his fine new crash helmet and confess. You might as well know, said Keith. I lost the motorcycle. Lost the motorcycle? Keith, who had been kneeling, sat back on his heels. But how? I rode it by mistake into a pillowcase in a heap of linen on the floor, and it got dumped into the laundry hamper, confessed Ralph. You rode it into a pillowcase? Repeated Keith. But you weren't supposed to ride it in the daytime, you promised. I know, agreed Ralph miserably. I didn't exactly mean to ride it. But you did, Keith's voice was accusing. Well, you see, the maid was vacuuming under the bed, and began Ralph. Oh, what's the use? I wrote it and I lost it, and it's probably gone to the laundry by now. I'm so sorry. The boy and the mouse both were thinking about the little motorcycle with its clean pipes and pair of shining chrome exhausts. That motorcycle was my very most favorite of my cars, said Keith. I saved my allowance and bought it myself. Ralph hung his head in his crash helmet. There was nothing more he could say. It was a terrible thing he had done. I guess I should have known you weren't old enough to be trusted with the motorcycle, said Keith. The boy could not have said anything that would have hurt Ralph more. Well, I think that's a really good place to end the story. What did you think, Madam Owl? I think that was a good lesson to learn too. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for joining us here with Wayne Reads. Hope you had a good time, and we can't wait to see you for the next adventure. Bye-bye!